Yes, number one on the agenda, 2017-058, an appropriation of $250,000 to Community Preservation Fund for Fore Playground.
Councilor Fore.
Thank you, Madam President. Certainly move approval on this. I see the park director out there. I don't know if you had any comments. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. But I guess obviously follow up to the discussion and ensued at our last meeting regarding the park improvements plan. And I want to thank the Community Preservation Committee for recognizing the sense of urgency around this project. I want to reiterate it, but we all sat here and listened to it. So grateful for their work in approving this, and also Chris for helping to facilitate. So with that, I move approval. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to approve by Councilor Fore, seconded by Councilor Devona. On the motion, Councilor Devona.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to elaborate just a little bit. During our Community Preservation Committee, being the board member here from the council, that it's been a very difficult year with funding, that more communities and more municipalities have come on board with the CPA funding, and it's put us in a little bit of a pickle over there at the Community Preservation. But with the work and help of the Mayor administration as well as Mayor KOCH to move this item forward, the money got a little bit tied up at the state level, and people don't really truly understand that. And they just want to park out there and they want these improvements. But with this being approved tonight, I asked my colleagues to be on board with allowing this appropriated funding to get started back over there. The baseball season's already started for the kids, and they still need a little bit of work with the actual diamond and then the field. And the Play for All playground, which is all inclusive, is a very important, vital piece to the city of Quincy. So with that, I did second this, but I want to urge my colleagues to move forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Devona. Further discussion, Councilor Pelletier.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is the first time this is being on the agenda, right?
Yes.
So can someone speak to where it's coming from, where it's going? I understand the merits of the project, and we heard a lot about it actually. I think it was the last council meeting when folks came up and spoke, and probably worth thanking all those folks who came up and spoke, came out and supported this project, came out and spoke, and they're concerned that it wasn't in the capital improvement request, the parks budget request. They came out, they advocated, and without them, I question whether or not this expenditure would have been made. But in terms of the flow of the monies, can someone speak to that, perhaps?
Yes, the mayor's representative, Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker.
Through you, Madam President. The flow of the monies is not that different than most other CPC projects. The difference here, Councilor, is that we asked the CPC to make a recommendation on this project at its last meeting and give it, send it up to the Mayor's office for appropriation and approval by this body prior to the remaining group of projects that are still being deliberated by the CPC. Generally what happens is the projects come in a group. It's usually one appropriation, maybe two appropriations a year, depending on the timing of things. In this particular case, based on the urgency, based on some of the issues surrounding it, we felt it was appropriate to ask the CPC to send up the recommendation a little bit earlier than we normally would, just to get the ball rolling.
Okay, thank you. That explains why it's a standalone item, which was one of my questions. And the second is usually when we get that request, somebody tells us how much money is in the account, how the account's being allocated in terms of, I believe it's 4 different buckets that the money can go into. Can you speak to that?
I believe the auditor can speak to that, Madam Auditor.
It would be so much more entertaining than Mr. Walker. Thank you, Madam Auditor.
Yes, Councilor. Generally speaking, back in the fall, around, I think it's November or December, at that time the council will vote on a budget, and that's when the money goes into the appropriate allocated spaces. This money was put into the Budgetary Reserve account. Currently, there's $866,000 in that account. So the money will get transferred out of this reserve account, and it will go into the recreational account to cover the cost for the playground.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to whoever wants to answer. So that means which is 866, this is 250,000 of it, so that means this is a little less than a third that would then preclude certain projects from getting funded at the CPA, or Mr. Walker, perhaps to you, or actually, perhaps to our representative, Mr. Bono, Councilor Bono, who serves on that. There are other projects that haven't been voted on, I suspect. Whoever wants to answer, I'm just going to lob it out there.
I don't know who, Madam Auditor.
Speak to the volumes here.
Through you to Mr. Palmucci. We're in a little bit of a pickle this year. We're $1.3 million in the hole, and the reason being is there's a lot more projects that have come onto the table. We're piecemealing this situation where we're actually telling some bodies that are coming forward, some groups that we might not be able to fund it this year. We might have to come back next year. Some of them might not be top priority. We're trying to, with the help of the administration, is try to work something out with, the buckets and what you would say. In general, this allocation, this $250,000, was basically a shortfall from the state. And as you can see from the past meeting that people came in here, and they don't fully understand, that's the thing about this. People don't fully understand that are citizens of the city, how funding works, where the state funding is lost, and there's already a project underway over there in the Fore improvements. And so we're putting in a position where we want to make sure that the Fore field improvements are one in which privately funded. A privately fundraiser was held to do the park improvements for the Play for All-Inclusive. Now, this Play for All-Inclusive, and people don't fully understand this, is something that is for kids not only that are handicapped, but also have other needs, which is autism and other behavioral issues. So this kind of goes beyond what we really need for the city of Quincy. These kids, we don't have anything that has this in the city of Quincy. You can go to Braintree, and they have these type of facilities, but this is that one item that people came in front here and asked about, and why the funding wasn't there. They don't fully understand, and I want to thank the administration for moving this forward early, because if it gets passed tonight, that it's an important matter, and we don't want, and the baseball field, the baseball diamond, the season's already started. And the kids can't fully use that side because they push the diamond from the back end where the Ray Dunn field backstop is to the other side. So we're basically in the middle. The money got tied up, and we want to move this forward a little bit earlier than the other ones. This is kind of the top priority. So with the motion of Connie Driscoll from the Community Preservation Committee, I second this to move this up to the council. And to probably free this up. And as a funding, you'd have to ask the administration how that's going to work. But this is one of the most important items in that asking. So with that being said, back through to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeBona. And certainly, I don't dispute the merits of the particular project. It just usually when these are done, when we're funding CPA projects, we see the whole kind of assembly of projects that are being funded, and you can see in a more wider lens the affordable housing projects, the open space preservation. We can see what the CPA is doing. When a project comes to us piecemeal, and I understand why this is being done, and I don't have an issue with that at all. When we only see one project, we can't see how the CPA funds are being expended and which different aspects that the fund was established, the trust fund was established to support is being funded, I guess. So it's a little confusing to me in terms of how it's being done, but I'm happy to support it nevertheless because it's a good project. But through you to Mr. Walker, I see Mr. Walker wants to add something.
Did you want?
Yeah, just a quick point, Madam President, that the only thing different here is the timing, Councilor. This was a project, the sense of the committee prior to even last week was this was going to be one of their priority projects regardless, proposed from the Park Department. This was going to make it into the pipeline for appropriation to this body through the mayor. And the only difference now being is that it got moved up and separated from the pack, so to speak, so we could get the ball rolling a little bit quicker than we would have otherwise. You'll be seeing those projects, I would think, within the next meeting or two. I don't know that we're going to be in a position to not appropriate a certain number of projects. I think that there's some avenues that the mayor's team and the CPC are working on together to make sure all the appropriate projects will be before this body with an appropriation request. Of course, every time there's an application doesn't mean the CPC is going to recommend it. There are some projects that, for a number of reasons, get knocked off by or get rejected by the committee, whether they don't fit the application criteria, whether they're city projects guised as a community project or or a variety of other reasons that can happen. So the amount of money in the account right now isn't necessarily predictive of the full scope of things. We think that this project is going to be at the top of the list to begin with, and the only issue here is the timing.
No, and again, I'm not disputing the reasons why it's being brought up. It's unusual that a project is brought up individually, where we can't look at the whole host of projects and projects and properties sometimes that are different. But nevertheless, to answer my question, I appreciate it. I'm happy to support this, obviously. It's a meaningful project. It means a lot to folks in the community who will be able to take their kids to a playground that is inclusive. We don't have one, so it's an easy vote, I think. So thank you for all the work, Councilor Crowell, Councilman Bowman, have done on this, and to the administration as well.
Thank you, Madam President, and I probably should have just painted a little more perspective to the best of my understanding, but my understanding was this was an unanticipated item taken out of sequence. As someone who represents the Quincy Point area and is intimately familiar with the evolution, and at points lack thereof, of this particular project, there was a piece of funding that sort of went by the wayside. So I know you can appreciate this, but as a ward council, what I've been dealing with is essentially a half-completed project, right? So I'm hearing from residents, and we're just talking about baseball time, right? Because now we're starting to get into baseball season. So the way that this whole concept evolved, quite honestly, was out of residential sentiment for folks living on the Beechwood Street area that were dealing with foul balls, hitting their vehicles, their vinyl siding, and you name it, was happening, right? And that's what happens when you live by a baseball field. So the thought was to sort of re-engineer everything and replace the baseball diamond, and then out of that grew what I believe to be an amazing project, courtesy of the playground, right? That would essentially service the needs of children that are either confined to mobility devices or have seeing impairments or some of the other issues that Councilor Bona had alluded to. But it all started with this baseball diamond. So if you were down in the Quincy Point area now, essentially you would see a half-completed revitalization or reconstruction of the baseball diamond with mounds of dirt just sitting there. So as we get back to why maybe this is on the agenda, obviously it was an unanticipated circumstance, but as I see it, and again, I'm an advocate, I've been involved with this project day one, I appreciate everyone's willingness to kind of move the chains and move the ball forward on this, but I mean, construction is well underway. And getting back to sort of the need for the community, and I heard everyone express a sentiment here this evening, but there were so many hands that touched this project to really bring it to fruition. I mean, we had the opportunity, together to raise over $30,000 in a night. And I know some folks in this room were in, the fundraising room that night, and that's a pretty special thing. So we're trying to keep a really positive, upbeat, great story, not only for Quincy Point, for Ward 2, but the city at large, and just complete, right? We had a circumstance that we couldn't see happening, it happened, and what I see before me here is, hopefully something that will expedite the request and, complete all the work orders. Hopefully we'll have kids playing on that playground, sooner than later. At the end of the day, that's, for me, that's what it's all about. So I appreciate your indulgence, Madam President, and already stated my motion, so thank you.
Thank you. So we will ask the clerk for a vote to call the roll.
Counselor King.
Yes.
Counselor Crowe.
Yes.
Counselor DeBon.
Yes.
Counselor Finn.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor LaForest.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor Calmucci.
Yes.
President Hughes.
Yes.
9 members.